And welcome back to the Horse Business Builders podcast and show. I'm super excited to have you guys here because there are two types of horse business owners when it comes to email marketing. It's those that use it, and then there are those that don't. And the people that are actually using email when it's done right, they're able to build, grow, and scale their business, both in the short term and in the long term in a big way. But many people, maybe yourself, that are using email aren't quite seeing the level of results that are possible when it comes to email marketing, because they're either not sending enough emails, maybe they're sending the wrong kind of content, or maybe you're just straight up winging it. We've all been there. Today, I've brought in somebody that I highly respect in the horse world and who works outside of the equine industry. Her name is Jamie Samples with Yellow Barn Media, and she's an email strategist. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's a person of faith. She's a marketer. She's an absolute expert when it comes to email marketing. And I'm truly thankful that we've been able to build a relationship and be able to work together over the last couple of months here, maybe a year at this point. Time seems to fly by, but she's going to be able to share with us the real inner workings of what really works within email marketing. So if that's what you're in for, you're in the right spot. And Jamie, I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on here with me today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about one of my favorite things, email. And so thanks for having me again, Colton.
You bet. Absolutely. So let's just jump right into the weeds of it. And I'm going to start at the top with probably a question that many of us have when it comes to email, which is what separates email marketing and email strategy from those email campaigns that actually get results in revenue, right? Actually drives a profit in a business, and then emails that just get ignored, that people don't open. They're not like, what really separates the emails that work versus the ones that aren't converting?
Yeah, and I love that question, and it's pretty easy. Generally, I find it's one word. It's authenticity. And we have all been a recipient of those emails that just come, and you can tell they're just, I call them corporate, right? They're just very bland, dry, and you can tell they're selling you something. They're not telling a story. So for me, it's all about like taking your business, and it's just as simple as having a conversation with someone. If you were sitting across the table or sitting at the barn or at a horse show and talking to someone, what would you say? Generally, the emails that are what I would consider junky are the ones, like, you don't want to write those. They're super corporate and no one wants to read them. But if you have something that is conversation-based, that's, yes, you can talk about your product, your industry, but really the ones that work well and that sell, they're telling a story and they're very authentic.
And I think that's a good way to start this whole thing off, because a lot of us, especially in the horse industry, right, get a really bad taste in our mouth for, using automations like text type marketing, right? And we all get spammed at least every other day, if not every day, with somebody that is misusing how to actually run a proper text campaign. And in this case, email marketing, we all get junky emails, people that are on a detail level breaking A2P, right? Like they're doing it the wrong way. And we're like, if that's what it takes, this isn't right. But you're pretty much saying that to effectively do email marketing, it's the exact opposite of all the things that make us have that disgusting taste in our mouth.
Yes. And for me, it's interesting because for my personal emails for my company, I write emails the way that I speak. And sometimes that includes, like, I use made up words sometimes. And my audience knows that that's coming from me. Like, I didn't have AI write it. I mean, yes, AI can help us 100%. But when you really put your heart and soul into something, it doesn't have to take you 16 hours to write it. You don't have to be someone who had, that was amazing in school with grammar and spelling and all that. There are tools to help with that. But when you really put your heart into it and you're telling the story of your business, of your product, it's very easy for people to read it. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be like, there's so many things that people think about email. And Colton, you and I have talked about kind of the myths, right? That people think like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that. Some of those can be true, but the majority of the time, the things that business owners have up here about email are not true. And if they can get past those, they can truly write campaigns that really convert and make them money.
You bet. Yeah, we'll definitely unpack some of the myths. And I think that this is something I've heard when we've worked with various horse business owners, right? And they come to us and they're like, we need help with whatever it is. And they think that we're going to put them in a box. And they think we're going to tell them that you can't do all of these things. And it's like, no, we actually like try to empower horse business owners to be who they are. Like, no, like that thing that you thought was crazy to go chase, that thing that you think that's not going to work. And what you're saying is like, be yourself through email. Right? Like, yes, you have, if you struggle at communicating, guess what? You need to learn how to communicate. But if it's not just, it's how you present yourself, but you can do it authentically, right? Because like you said, if people think, oh, that's AI that's wrote that, or, oh, you hired a marketing firm to do your marketing. And it's like, if it's that obvious, the marketing firm's probably not doing their job because it's not authentic. It's not genuine. And so, yeah, I know that we have to lay the foundation, right? Like people have to understand, like, hey, like what makes you unique is a thing that you need to leverage and step into in your horse business. And email marketing in this case is like a massive overlooked way to go about doing this. So let's talk about list size for a second. Let's just say that somebody that's listening to this, one of the audience members has like, let's say 500 emails on their list and they're not emailing consistently. And what kind of opportunity are they really leaving on the table? If they've got 500 emails sitting on a list on the back burner and they're just not using it, they're like, I don't have time. I don't know what to say. I'm afraid I'm going to screw it up. Like what honestly, like what kind of opportunity are they leaving on the table?
Well, it's going to depend, but I mean, that's kind of the marketing answer for everything. But with email specifically, you're definitely missing it. Obviously, what we do in marketing, everything is numbers. If you have 500 people on your list, let's just say only 100 of them want to hear from you. Out of that 100, let's say 5 buy from you, whatever that is, your product or service. What would that do for your business? I know for me, if I got 5 new clients tomorrow, I'd be like, what? Like for me, that's going to probably like, it's going to be it's a good number. It's a number we're going to celebrate, right? And I'm going to be put to work and I'm going to be like, this is what I'm trying to do to grow my business is I now have these 5 more people. So a lot of people look at it like, well, it's just 500. I have, like you talked about there's a couple different types of businesses, right? But if we're looking at someone who's established in your business and you're doing social media and you're maybe doing Facebook ads and you're doing whatever in-person events, whatever you're doing, and you're not using email I mean, the stats are insane with email as far as like, it's not this way for everyone, but the stats are it's between $36 and $42 per every dollar you spend is your ROI. So you're getting a 36 to 42% ROI on email marketing. Like, again, I'm not a mathematician. That's my husband's realm, but I know the numbers enough to know, like, if you give me a list of 500, I'm going to take that ROI. I'm going to put money on that every day, all the time.
Mm-hmm. So can you say that part again? Just say that stat and just break it down just a little bit for people. Because for us, it's pretty like, they're like, oh yeah, right there. But
I have the way that I say it. So I'll say the other way.
Yeah, let's do it.
So with email marketing, imagine this. If someone asks you to give them $1 and you would give them $36 to $42 back, would you give them $1? I would. So that's your return on investment with email marketing. And again, nothing is guaranteed in marketing, but the stats show across all industries and from many of the horse businesses I've worked with, they're getting insane ROI on, they're getting an amazing return on investment with email marketing that is surpassing many of their Instagram and Facebook campaigns just with their organic. So email compared to organic social media is incredibly powerful. And if you're not using it, you are most certainly leaving money on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you agree with this stat or if you've heard this one before, but when we first got introduced to like, hey, like we were collecting emails, right? Like we were a professional email collector, but not a professional leverager of our email list. And we entered into a mastermind in there. And the thing that kind of tripped in my brain was like, they're like, hey, for every name on your email list, you should be making about $1 per name per month. And I was like, dang, like if I've got 500 people on my list and I can put it, and that doesn't mean that every person spends $1, right? You're saying like 5 out of the 500 might spend, right? Which is fine. 1% comes through and spends. Average for a website, 1 to 2% on a website funnel. And so But if I have 500 people and I can get $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year for my business. That for a lot of businesses, like, hey, I'd take $6,000, extra. And two, if I grow my email list to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, which most small businesses can, and now you're looking at like, can I add that in revenue? Now, of course, we're going to get into like the strategies and the campaigns and the things that we need to know to make that possible. But for me, being a business owner, I'm like, hey, cash is king. Revenue makes sense, and it's hard to invest in something when you're like, I don't know how this is actually making money. That's one of the big things horse business owners struggle with, like branding. Branding doesn't make money. And it's like, oh, but it does,
Yes.
and for the audience, for you guys that are listening to this, one of the things that, and I'll share my 2 cents on this really quickly. And Jamie, if you have a contrary belief or anything you want to throw in there, but email to me is very much the glue. It's a very good glue system to your marketing business, because a lot of us are using social media. We're using Facebook, using Instagram, using TikTok. And then at some point in our businesses, a lot of us get into ads, or we run the risk in the horse industry of losing our social media accounts because of cancel culture and, certain things just getting banned, or you get, some people think the shadow banning is a thing. And it's like, hey, if you can't reach your audience on social media, which is not really your audience, that Facebook owns that audience, Instagram owns that audience. You just get the privilege of reaching their audience. But email gets you in control. Email, like when you build an email list, that is your list, and you can reach them at 98% at a click. You send out 1,000 emails in the pop, you should reach 980 to 990 of them on average. And that's a lot better than your 5% on social media, right? And so, when it comes down to business, we got to know the numbers. And a lot of times on social media, we're only reaching 5% of our organic audience. And so if you had 1,000 followers on Facebook and you can only reach 50 of them per post, versus I can send one email and use Jamie's approach to this and go, hey, now I reached 980 or 990, and 98 to 99% of my email list got that email. And we'll get into other numbers that makes it even more impressive than that. But that's just who I reached. If I'm looking at ROI of my time as a business owner, email marketing makes sense, because when I send it to them, they're going to get it. Versus I post it on Facebook, it's like rolling the dice, wondering who's going to see it. Is anybody going to see it? And a lot of us make the mistake of using social media posts to validate an idea. And it's like, you don't know who the hell saw it, if anybody saw it. And so we could go down that path for a while. But one of the things that, in leading up to our conversation, that Meredith and I were talking about for clients that we've helped with email marketing, and I know a lot of people have this question too, is a lot of people can fear, like when you're ready to go down the path of email marketing, you can really get worried, like, I don't want to send so many emails. I don't want to send too many emails that my people start to resent me, or I'm overwhelming them. And so in real talk, is it possible to over email your audience? And how do you know how much is too much and how much is not enough when it comes to coming up with your email strategy?
Okay, so first of all, I think the most blunt way to say it is don't send garbage emails, number one. Don't just send an email because you're like, I need to send one. I mean, you need to have a plan and a purpose. And to your point that you were talking about, social versus email and how they work together, like the one thing I love about email is it's measurable. So you can get your numbers from it, right? But I think when we're talking about the strategy of, can I send too much? Like, I don't want to be annoying, right? You can be, but don't be. If you have a plan and you have something to share, and many people will tell me, like, Jamie, I don't know what to say, therefore I don't send emails. So then you have this constant loop of they just never send emails. But you have way more to say than you think about it. And again, we could get in the weeds about strategy. But as far as, like, I would say, like, if you're a horse trainer, you could send 2 emails a month. Some people will tell you send one weekly. You can send weekly. If you have things to share, if you've got people following you that really want to know updates on, like, for example, if you're doing one of the Mustang challenges and you have weekly emails that give you an update on how these 3 Mustangs are doing, people are going to be interested in that. But just think about yourself. Think about what emails you get. What emails do you open? And, for me, a lot of times, if the email has a good subject line and I know who it's coming from and I know what's on the inside is authentic and the person isn't just trying to sell me a thing, the latest whatever, but they're trying to connect with me, share a story with me. Of course, we all know we're trying to sell stuff and make money, but there's ways to do it that are friendly, authentic, whatever your brand is. I mean, I've worked with brands that are like, I didn't work with them long, but like they're like, we want to use the F word and everything because that's who we are. And I'm like, okay, those are emails I'm personally over time probably not going to read and I'm going to opt out of because they're not my people. But if you know who your people are and you're speaking their language, you can send them as many emails as you want and you'll learn over time. You know, one of the questions was, can you send too many? You can, but also if you start emailing and you do it consistently and you say, I'm going to send one a week or maybe two a month, whatever that looks like. After 90 days or 6 months, you go back and look at those stats. Look at the days and times you sent them. There's a lot of strategies to figure out what's working and what's not. I used to only send twice a month, but then I was like, I have more to say and more like things to share. And marketing is one of those super big, there's millions of things to share. So I started doing shorter emails. I rejiggered them. I've been doing them for, 20 plus years, but I completely redid everything. I made them shorter, more concise with bite-sized tips and tools every single week. And I get consistent open rates. People love reading my stuff. You're always going to get some people that are that unsubscribe, but for me, I'm like, have a great life, right? You're honing in on your list of people that really want to hear from you.
Absolutely. And to the point, have a great life. Hasta la vista. See ya. I would tell you, this is one of the biggest unsubscribes we ever had on our email list was a gal's house burnt down. And we did a fundraiser. And we had been consistently providing value, sending out links to YouTube videos, podcasts, all the thing. And we went to them right before Christmas and was like, hey, this gal's house burnt down. We're doing a fundraiser. And we had a mass exodus of people that unsubscribed from our email list. And of course, they didn't say, hey, please take me off the list. They just hit the unsubscribe button. And when I went back and looked at the statistics, one, I was appalled. I'm like, I hope you all have a Merry Christmas because like I wasn't asking for nothing other than for you guys to consider helping us. But in a way, I'm like, get out. Like if that's what's going to cause you to unsubscribe, we obviously don't share the same kind of values. And so that was one of those things. It was like such an extreme example, like something I never would have thought would have happened in my business that would have caused people to leave the list. But at the end of the day, if they're unsubscribing, right, there's a big difference between like unsubscribing because you're just being pettily annoying and not providing value and unsubscribing because maybe they didn't jive with the F word, right? And it's like, if that's who you are, leverage it, lean into it, be Gary V, say it as much as you want to, and because you're not going to change. But having that perspective, because we work hard to build an email list, we work hard to build a social following. And sometimes on the gut check, it can be tough to see, man, we lost like 20 people. We lost 10 people. We lost 3 people on an email list because we worked hard to get them there. But share your 2 cents on why that's not such a bad thing.
Well, it's interesting because if we go back to the list of, let's say 500, right? So there have been clients that I've worked with and they're like, we've had this list of, let's say 500. We haven't emailed them in a year or sometimes 2 years. And I'm like, okay, so I always like to give my clients expectation, right? Like, here's what's going to happen. And I tell them, when you do this kind of re-engage email, you're going to get people that are going to unsubscribe and you might get a lot. And I don't want you to panic. And they're always like, people are so afraid of unsubscribes. But I think, again, it just goes back to who it is, who are we connecting with? It's just like if you go to a party and there's a bunch of people, you're innately going to connect with 3 people over these other 12 people. Why? Because you have something in common. Something comes up in a conversation. They're like, oh my goodness, this is my person, right? We know that there are 9,000 different ways to train a horse. Some of us like this trainer, that trainer, the other trainer. Some of us are going to fight about how much we like this one or we don't like this one, right? We're going to stay engaged with those lists. We're going to stay engaged with those people. And it literally is just one of those things, I think, and we could get into a whole like self-help talk or emotional intelligence, but in business, you have to be a little bit tough. We do work hard to get those people, but those are people that they might stay on your list forever and they're just going to take up space. Honestly, they're never going to open your emails. They're going to affect your numbers. So when they exit out on their own, it just gives you opportunity to find more people that align with your values and with your beliefs. I mean, I did a YouTube video back in November about, can you put politics and religion in your business. That's a whole nother thing. But it's the same kind of topic of, in my emails, I share things that are completely aligned with my life. If people don't like that I shared a scripture verse at the bottom of mine, God bless you. If I'm not your person, go find your person. So I think we just have to be, as business owners, we have to get a little bit calloused in that way to know that it's not a personal attack if someone unsubscribes. It just, we're not their person for right now. They're either going to subscribe later down the road, or they're just, we've got room for someone else.
Yeah, and we'll get into like building email lists and like you grow in the numbers, whether you've got no people on a list or you got 5,000 or 50,000 people on a list and you're trying to get more people. But at the end of the day, one of the things we do is that people opt into an email list for free stuff. And I learned this lesson really early on in my business when I hadn't really stepped into the marketing stuff. I was training horses, posting my thoughts on social media, and it started to grow an audience based on free value, which was great. But the very first time I went to promote something that we put, people got livid mad. And I was like, I mean, I got thick skin, but I was confused as hell when it happened because I was like, I've been giving you guys value for 3 years straight without one ask. And then you guys rebel when I decide that I'm going to do a clinic and charge for it or something like that. And it was wild. And then you realize that some people on an email list standpoint will opt in just for the free thing. They'll opt in just for the discount. They'll opt in just for the free information, whatever it is. And the minute that they get a little bit further in your ecosystem and you put an offer in front of them, they're like, see a piece out of here. All they did was to sell. And it's like, well, yeah, we have to sell things. This is called a business. It doesn't run on hopes and dreams. Like we actually got to sell things so that we can provide for our employees and our families and pay for our expenses as businesses. There's no shame in running a very profitable business, because when you do that, you can better serve everybody around you. But it's one of those things that we realize that, again, when we're attracting, we have to be careful who we're attracting in the marketing phase, but even in an email strategy, we specifically oftentimes attract people that want free stuff. That way we can get an email. And then we have to realize that we got to weed them out a little bit too, because ultimately we got to get the buyers, right? Like we want to help and we want to serve, but we got to have people that'll buy. And if we don't have people on the list that'll buy, then what good is the list at the end of the day? And so that you made a good point there. And you're talking about like reviving a list. And so, do you have like a crazy story of like a list that you like worked over, you know, did like a client that like stood out that you're like, they came to us and they had this list and it like, just, I don't want to put any parameters on it, but I'm sure you've worked with quite a few where you've had to like do some CPR on a list and like give us a little idea of like what that was like.
So we had one client came to us and they're a horse trainer, and they had a pretty good list. So that was really awesome. But they're like, we don't have a welcome series, which, you know, and automations, we didn't have any automations. We have all these people, like, what do we do? So we actually just took their list and we started, I looked at some of their past emails, and it's not like they were sending bad emails, but they weren't great. They just weren't great when they were sending, you know, prior years. So fast forward, we took that list and we went through like, okay, who was engaged, right? We took like the, I don't know, 35 or 40% of the people that were engaged way back. And we just sent them like a storytelling email with like a really easy ask, I think a free resource, something very just like, hey, are you even still interested in staying connected? They got a really good response rate. Anyways, fast forward, we ended up putting a welcome series in place for them, along with just doing regular consistent emails and getting that list revived. And it's amazing. The conversion rate was 93%. 93% conversion rate for our initial ask. And it's been a couple years now. I don't even remember what we did for the initial ask, but basically we just took them from they had a pretty good list. They hadn't talked to in a while. We just kind of started storytelling and really just starting that conversation back up. And it's insane how the people just started like replying to them. They were actually hitting reply and giving them stories back. And it became this alive list again. And of course, then they started making money, but they just really opened that door of conversation again to be like, hey, we're out here. We've been out here doing social. We just weren't doing email. Mm-hmm. And so it was amazing to see how people responded. And it even shocked me a little bit, because sometimes to get an actual reply back to an email that said like, to have someone open that conversation via email, like, oh my gosh, so great to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. And so that was a really, really powerful thing, just knowing that like even if a list is out there and it seems dead, you can use CPR and just revive it.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that there's a whole strategy right into reviving a list, and like that's its own thing, right? So that way you don't screw up all your sending and all that stuff. But if you were going to look at this, we'll kind of go a little tactical here for a second. You've talked about like, hey, sometimes you can send 2 emails a month or one a week, or maybe you do two a week. Like it depends. Everybody can figure out how much they have to say, and how interested is their audience in what they have to say. If you could only send, let's say 4 emails a month, if you're going to send one a week, what kind of emails would those look like?
Well, for me, so for me personally, I am sharing like industry. So I'm in marketing, right? So for me, I'm sharing industry news every week. Like what's new? What might you not know? So as a small business owner, what can I help you with every week? And I'm sharing helpful tips that are coming from my blog also. So I'm taking email and integrating my blog and my social as well. But I think like if you're in the horse industry, whether you're a clinic, you're a trainer, you might have a retail store. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. I think, using those emails to tell a story, using those emails to obviously promote product and or services. But I know for me, like if I have a lot of natural horsemen and different people that lists I've just gotten on in the last few years. And as they're sending me emails, the ones that are short and concise and that are drawing me into a story of a specific horse or a specific training issue or challenge they had, I think that if you can really utilize storytelling emails and then you can sell through storytelling, those are the emails. Like for me, the more that I storytell and the more authentic and real that I am, the better open rate I get, the better click-through rate, the better response rate, and then of course, ultimately the better conversion rate. So I think for me, it's authentic storytelling emails, especially in the horse industry. I think that I see those work the best.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that being someone that has been on the educating side of things and having to learn from someone like, because I love teaching, I love just pouring value into people, whether it's business side or horsemanship stuff. And one of the things that we've learned over the years is that you can give your best kept secrets in email, and there's a way to do that through storytelling that is actually effective. But and I'll kind of throw this out there in case someone's like, I'm going to start my email list and I'm just going to start doing like, 3 tips on that and 5 tips on this. And it's like, sometimes the stories sell, right? And I always say like stories sell and testimonials transform. And so, but if we go into it, just if you're an educator and you love teaching people and you just pour all this information into it doesn't matter whether it's a YouTube video, a Facebook post, an email, it's all the same. And you do that. Sometimes you fill up the appetite to such the degree that people are like, I'm full. I don't need to go buy this next thing. And so none of this is about like gatekeeping information, but it's understanding how do you tell the story to where people actually feel emotion and they feel compelled to take action, right? And they know that, hey, this is where I can actually help you, whether it's a membership, it's a course, it's at a clinic, whatever it is, right? And I think that's something that's like I've had to learn. I'm kind of like speaking to myself on that because I've had to go through that learning process of like, I just want to tell them all this information, and we live in an information age. And I was even listening to a podcast yesterday that was talking about how their opinion was that the information age is over because there's so much information out there that we've actually entered more of an entertainment era. And so we, in the stories, provide a form of entertainment so that we can guide people through this. They can have an experience with us in our email, get the knowledge, and then go, okay, this is where I can further help you. And I think if anyone's in an education basis, in an education machine, you have to understand, like, you can't give them all the information in one single email. Right. That's why you do clinics. That's why you have a membership. That's why you do courses. And so that's where you can actually serve them because you've got 20 hours worth of content that thoroughly covers it. And I see a lot of people that get a little weird about like, I don't want to hold back from my audience. It's like, but you can't give them it all anyway. You can't sit there and write an email long enough to give them everything. So understand that you have to give them what you need to be able to give them in that particular email, that YouTube video, that social media post. Go ahead, Jamie, because I can see you're stewing on something there. So,
well, the other thing that I find, some people think like saying this sounds some kind of way, but you need to explain to your audience the way a fifth grader can understand it, because this is what's so interesting. When people say like, I don't have anything to share, what you fail to realize most of the time as a business owner is people call me a fire hose. Like if you get on the phone with me and they're like, here's my problem, I'm like, okay, sit down, buckle up, because I'm going to tell you the 19 ways we can fix this. I learned early on in business, like I got excited and that was great, but it wasn't helpful. Exactly what you're saying, Colton, is it was too much information. It was overwhelming, and they were already overwhelmed to begin with. So how can I take all of this knowledge and literally boil it down to this? Pick 5 to 10 of the frequently asked questions you get from people that inquire about your service or product or that are your current clients. What do they ask you? Break those things down. And, you know, it's interesting because Colton, you and I were just talking about how fun technology is, right? And I was like, if someone had a 1, 2, 3 email that broke down these little mics for me, and it cost me $19.99 or $99, and they guaranteed that in 3 steps I would know everything about this, I would buy it. I would say, here's my money, take it. And so I think that whether it's email or any kind of marketing, we as business owners, even me sometimes, we get incredibly overwhelmed about like, I do have all this information to share. You are much more of a valuable resource when there's one problem and you give one solution, period. That's it. You just fixed their problem for today. Yep. And I think that's something, you know, another thought I had when you were talking is it's up to us to also train our email list and train our social followers. This is what you're going to get, and this is how I would like you to respond, right? I think we live in a world where it's like we almost need someone to be like, not that I do this, but like on a social media post, you almost want to say, okay, like and share if you agree, right? Mm-hmm. You can't do that, but it's like when someone posts that, I do it because we're just trained to like do what we're told. That's a whole nother topic. But I do think it's important for us to just make whatever we're doing a simple solution, and whether that's email, in your email, have it be a simple solution or a piece of encouragement or whatever your audience needs, but don't make it a 32-page email. No one's going to scroll it. Make it a simple, easy solution for them, and they're going to keep coming back to that.
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing that's along the lines of what you were just saying, and it's, you know, we're kind of in the philosophical realm of how to lead people and get people activated, and people go like, oh, that's, you know, NLP, or it's, you know, that's controversial because you're manipulating people, and it's like, you know, at the end of the day, I think as business owners, we have to read that we're leading our business. We are leaders. And I came to kind of this understanding actually through horses and teaching horsemanship clinics, but it's the same thing with business, which is leadership is the ability to influence. And so if you want to be a good leader for your horse, you have to have the ability to have influenced that horse's body, its mind, its emotions, and you need to be able to do that ethically, right? It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. Business is the exact same thing that I just said, right? As a business owner, you have to develop influence and you have to earn it, right? Like you can't just grab it and hold on tight. Like you can't do that with a horse either. And you can't do it with your potential clients. You have to earn influence over the realms, which means you have to nurture them through social media posts, through emails. And it's not just what you're saying, it's how you're communicating that. And through what Jamie's saying, it's through stories, right? Through compelling stories that are articulated well to take people along a journey, and you develop influence. And along the way, as you develop influence, guess what? People listen to you. So when you say, hey, reply to this email, and you've got influence, they do it. If you say, hey, type yes on this Facebook comment, they do it because you're earning influence. And the more influence you get over your horse or over your customers, miraculously, the more opportunities you have, right? In both realms. And so it's understanding that it's like when we call it, like we do webinars, right? And you ask universal questions, which are yes-based questions. And it's like, people are like, that's manipulative. And it's like, I'm asking questions I need the answer to. Like, I'm not, and people have to understand, like, where's it coming from? Where's the authenticity? What's the ethics and the morals? Because just because something can be used for the wrong reason doesn't make it bad. Like, that's how guns are. And guns aren't bad. Bad people use guns. Okay. We're all on the same page with that. If you're not, sorry about it. But like, that is
Unsubscribe.
right. Yeah. See ya. Right. Like, hasta la vista. Because it's one of those things. It's understanding that we have a responsibility, we have a fiduciary duty to our clients and to our customers. And it's not just what we do, it's how we do it. So I don't want to like bypass that, but like we could stay on the philosophical leadership stuff of running a business all day long. I'm going to reel this back into something tactical real quick, which is, what is the number one type of email campaign that every horse business owner should have in their business? It doesn't matter whether they're a farrier, a trainer, a clinician, an e-commerce business. Like, what is the number one thing that all of us, if we don't have it in our business right now, we are wasting time, wasting opportunity, and it's like the next thing that we should do after we quit listening to this podcast?
You should write a welcome email, whether series and automation. So whether that's 3 to 5 emails, when someone opts into your list, doesn't matter why, when, where, how they're opting in, they need to be tagged with, that'll get confusing because people don't understand the whole systems.
That's okay.
So everyone needs a welcome series automation. So 3 to 5 emails that as soon as someone opts into your list, they are getting, let's just say 3 to 5 emails over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, right? So right away, they're getting one right away that says welcome. And it's not just like, welcome to the herd. Like, don't do that. Make it about your business and who you are, but more importantly, how you can serve them. And it's, again, we talked about storytelling. So these welcome emails could be like, here are, if you're a farrier, you use that as an example. So here's the area that I serve. Here are you can get a link to my calendar. Here's a little bit about the types of specialty projects I've worked on, right? The types of trouble horses or challenged horses that I've worked on. So there's a million ways that you can introduce your brand, what you're doing, your services, your offerings, and also, again, ethically teaching them how they need to work with you. If they fit this bill, this is how they need to work with you. The beautiful thing about these is you write them and you set them into motion one time, of course, unless you need to make changes, but one time. If someone opts in at 7 o'clock at night and you're at dinner with your family, they're going to get that first email. Automated emails generate 320% more than regular emails. So if you, again, I'm not going to run the numbers in my head, but if you had a list of 500, 320% more is better than any other percentage, right? It's a huge number of people that are going to see that email. So a welcome series is automated. It again, makes you money while you sleep. And I just find that they are incredibly powerful. The amount of clients that I've worked with that have implemented a welcome series, once they look at their stats from 90 days to 6 months to a year, and they realize the revenue that it's brought in, the new clients, the new customers, they're like, why didn't I do this before? So a welcome series email is automated, and 100%, once they get off this, get done listening, they need to go create that now.
You betcha. And so, of course, how they're going to execute that is we would spend hours just getting into like, how do you craft this? But what are like some of the key ingredients that you're like, the welcome sequence needs to have for it to, because we're ultimately like, we've already kind of talked about building the relationship, but they've just opted into an email list. And so what would a business owner want to have, if they're like, is this actually going to be effective? How they need to communicate, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But what would you be looking at to make sure they include on the hit list?
Well, and this is sometimes debatable, but I would say in that first email, I always like, as a receiver of emails, I like to get a coupon or a value add, something in that first email that says, I want to acquire you as a customer. So, or as a new client. And again, that's going to look different if you're retail, if you're a farrier, if you're a body worker, a horse trainer, that could be totally different, but you want to make them an offer of like, because we all know once you acquire a customer the first time, it's much easier for them to buy a second, third, and fourth time. So, and the other thing is, when you're looking at kind of the tactical and the strategy pieces of it, you need to have really good subject lines with these emails, because again, if we're writing great emails and we can't get people to open them, but the one thing I've talked to many people about how they feel when they get a welcome email. They want to know a little bit about the company, a little bit, whatever that is about you and your services or your product. They like to get something free or something of value add, spend 60, get free shipping, if it's retail, or get your $25 off your first trim. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to tell you what that specific thing is, but they like to have immediate monetary discount or value in that first email. I know we could talk about that for a week straight too, but I like to see those in emails. I respond to those as someone that opens those. I'm much more likely to go connect with them on social media and to buy something from them or sign up for something if there's something free or value added in that first email. And then after that, again, tactically just reminding them if they haven't used that coupon or that offer or that value add, make sure to do that. I also like to make sure that I'm asking them to connect with me on social media in those emails. So, and then of course, tell your story. Talk about, again, you can talk about pain points of your audience. You can talk about yourself, your qualifications, why they should buy from you versus your competitors. Again, there's tactical ways to do that. But again, I like the authenticity, the storytelling. If someone didn't know who you were and their friend said, you need to go sign up for this 10% off coupon, let's just say, if they've never met you, how are they going to get to know who you are, who you serve, the type of person you are, why they should work with you? Oh, they need to learn that in those 3 to 6 emails over the course of those first, 4 to 8 weeks or whatever the timing is on those. So that's what I like to do. And again, I buy a ton of stuff when I get welcome emails. I'm just like, oh, if you're going to give me an opportunity to save money, I'm going to buy from you.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. Like I'm certainly stirring on quite a few ideas with that. And I think one of the most important things you said in all of that, like if I could pick out one little gold nugget of what you said was, as the receiver of emails, right? You put yourself in the buyers and the consumer's shoes. And so many of us get stuck as the business owner and we get analysis paralysis. And we're like, but if I put a coupon in the first email, they're going to think I'm trying to sell them more stuff. And it's like, no, like they value the discount. They value the offer that you gave them because they get to save. They get to get something exclusive. And we can get in our own way in our businesses of going, they just bought from me or they just opted in for something free. And if I give them a coupon, it's going to make it look like I'm just trying to sell them stuff. And it's like, no, they appreciate it. When it's positioned and communicated correctly, they see it as a give. They see it as an opportunity. And it's so important to put ourselves in our customers' shoes and ask ourselves, how is this going to be received? Not just how do we want to say it, not just how do we feel about it. And there's so much that we can unpack there that my brain just wants to go down. But I think that's one of the most important things that we all can do is just go, hey, if I receive this email as my ideal customer, how does that make me feel? Do I appreciate it? Does it make me feel icky? Does it, what is it?
Well, and there's one more thing too that I'll share. Some of us are not our ideal client. Like we are not our own ideal client. So if you already have a customer base and you have a couple, 2 or 3 of them that you have a really good relationship with, just ask them. Just say, hey, I want to make sure like I'm going to go venture out and start sending more emails as my ideal customer. Like we're friends and I've trained your horse or I've, done body work, whatever it is. What would you want to see in an email from me? Because I think that's super valuable. I'll ask my clients that sometimes and they'll tell me something and I'm like, I never would have even thought about that. So I think that as far as also tactical and strategy wise, like either if you're not your ideal person, ask your ideal client and say, hey, what would be some neat ideas that I could share? And they might work, they might not, but it's definitely something to look at.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll go ahead and say what I was thinking a second ago because you just doubled down on it, which is, so many business owners, we are not our ideal customer because we can fix those problems, right? Like as a horse trainer, I would not pay, another horse trainer because I can do it myself. So I'm not my ideal customer, right? And so a lot of horse business owners make the mistake of selling out of their own wallet. They're like, well, this is what I'm willing to pay for this thing that I can solve. And it's like, yeah, you're willing to pay cheap prices because you can do it yourself. So you're not willing to pay that much, but you have the skill, you have the time, you have the expertise. all of the, and you provide the experience. You have all the things that people are willing to pay for. So you're not willing to pay what your customers are willing to pay for. And I think that's something like, whether it's in a welcome series of understanding what do they want and how much are they willing to pay, and how can I position that, that early bird discount or that coupon offer or whatever it is it's like, it's not what fills your cup. It's what fills their cup. And if you're not, I mean, I've never, and now in the business side, I have been my ideal customer because I'm solving problems that I used to face in my business. And a lot of us some of us will get to that point in our business, but as a horse trainer, I was never my ideal customer, right? Now, I was my ideal customer as a clinician because I didn't know all the stuff that I know now. So I knew the struggle. I understood the pain points and stuff like that. I used to be in those shoes. But as a business owner, we have to get to know that person. We have to get to know who that ideal client is. Whether you've been that person or you haven't been that person, you got to communicate to them.
I just was thinking about something too. Going back to can we send too many emails? I thought about this and I thought this is really valuable to share, I think, even though we're going back a little bit. There is a company that I have been buying skincare from for, golly, I don't know, 5-6 years now. The story that they send emails probably 3 to 4 times a week. Okay. I do not open them. And I do get a little bit annoyed. I'm not going to lie. However, I continue to buy from them and I go back and I find their emails, even if it's from last month, they send them because they also have, like, any of my money that I spend with them. They will tell you, if you spend $60 with us, it pays for a sheep to get sheared, or it pays for a rescue horse to get a trim. It equates the money I'm spending with, it's a story, right? It's a story. But what I wanted to say is they send tons of emails. I probably only open, I don't know, maybe 20% of their emails in a month, but I buy from them every 6 weeks without fail. So, and I love the story and the connection, and I'm incredibly connected to their brand. So the other thing is, sometimes when we look at our numbers and we're like, man, I'm only getting like a 28% open rate. I wish there was, 48%. Sometimes, like, yes, we always need to be looking at better strategy, right? Like, can we do a better subject line? Can we try doing this subject line to half the list? And we could go into all the tactical strategies behind that. But I think it's important for us to think about it as we need to always look at our numbers and see how we can do better. But also, if I have people even on my list now, they won't open an email for a few months, and then they'll open like 5 or 6, and then they won't open for a few months, and it's seasonal. Some of the things that we do. So that was just like a side note I wanted to share, because I think it's important the way we perceive and think about how people perceive our brand and our business when we're writing emails. So it kind of ties into the things we were just talking about as well, as far as who is our ideal client and are we that person, and putting ourselves in their shoes, like, all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think sometimes we can get so bogged down in the details, and I'm about to ask you a question about the details of email marketing here in a second. But at the end of the day, right, like, all of us would love to have above average open rates, above average delivery rates, above average click-through rates. At the end of the day, the thing that we're all shooting for, right, outside of serving our clients, is building and growing and scaling our businesses. Like, that's what we're here to do. And so when we're trying to build our business, grow our business, and scale our business, we have to have revenue. Like, we have to be generating profit. And at the end of the day, we can send emails because we love connecting with our audience. But at some point, when you're putting all that work in and you're not getting anything in return, you're going to start to grow resentful of it, and you're not going to want to do it. And even if you absolutely are just super passionate about what you do, it happens to the best of us. And so it has to be, in a way, worth it, right? And so when we look at, let's just go through some averages, like easy to understand averages on like open rates, click-through rates, delivery rates, of what people would want to be ideally shooting for if email marketing is working well.
Well, so I think industry averages, obviously I like to be above industry average in everything I do, but a lot of my clients that come to me, if I tell them, I'm like, you want to be getting a 25 to 35% open rate. I mean, that's a pretty good range. I'd like for them to be getting 40 to 50, but that doesn't happen. But if you're someone who's like, I've been looking at my email, is it worth it? For open rates, I like 25 to 35%. If you can shoot for somewhere in that range, you're getting, a quarter of your audience or more to look at your emails. Click-through rates, I find, are the most challenging to increase, just like engagement on social media. And that's where you have to test and measure many, many things in your email to ensure that you're getting, and I don't even know what the industry average is right this minute, but I think also like 3 to 6%, if 3 to 6% of the people are clicking, again, you have this list and then you're dumbing it down a little bit where the numbers are like, okay, I only have this many that opened it. And it can feel very frustrating as a business owner. But the one thing I promise with email, when you do it consistently over time, always, Colton, we've talked about it's a long game, right? Yep. So I like to personally look at open rates. If your open rates are not good and you're like, well, Jamie, it's like 10% or 12%, it has something to do with your subject line. Like there's a lot of really cool, easy strategies for you to change up your subject line. And then click-through rates, you just need to look at your positioning. Are you asking them to click on 7 things? They're going to be like, what is happening? I just watched a podcast from another guy who does email or listen to the podcast. And he was like, so many people put all of these clickable links in their email. And he's like, I want them to click on one thing. Mm-hmm. So again, that's just strategy. Deliverability, I don't really look a lot at that. Obviously, if someone's got a list of 500 and only 300 are delivering, then we have some kind of problem. Most of my clients come to me, their deliverability is fine unless they're using like gmail.com or something that you shouldn't do. But I think click-through rate, like if I can get my clients to 40 to 50%, or open rate, 40 to 50% open rate. And then if I can get them up to like 8 to 10% click rate, then we've got like revenue is going to start coming in.
Yeah. And I think the big lever there, right? People, I'm a big numbers guy, and everyone in the marketing sense, guys, like when we're building an email list and you're looking at your own business and you're like, how do I actually implement this? It's like, it's ROI, right? And so we're not going to get into like a full overarching marketing strategy within this, but if you're only reaching 5% of your organic audience on social media, and say you're getting 25%, I say only getting 25% open rate on your emails, you're still 5 times ahead of your social media audience delivery, right? Or open rate of who's actually looking at your content. You're at 35%, you're 7x, right? Any business that's getting 5 to 7x on any type of investment is like doing backflips, right? And so we have to understand that like that's what we're looking at from a ROI of our effort, is if we can build an email list and then we're putting content out there that will actually build our brand, right, through storytelling. But and this is my opinion, Jamie, I want to hear your 2 cents on this, like to get from 25 to 35% from that range to 45 to 50%, that's storytelling. Like that's building a relationship with your audience. It doesn't matter whether you're an e-commerce product or you're a personal brand or whatever the case is, like that jump from there is building a relationship with the people on the other end of that. Because I think that at 25 to 35%, you can still be operating fairly transactionally. Like you could run an e-commerce business and just be slinging discounts and just going like, you're here for the good stuff, right? Like you're here because you love our product and you want to know what we've got, like what's next, what new product is going to hit the line, what discount code we're going to send you next, what holiday special. You're going to stay hooked. But to get above and beyond that, there's got to be something more compelling to be a part of. And a lot of it says people want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. To your point about the shearing the sheep and trim and rescue horses' hooves, right? Like, sure, you're not jumping their click-through rate up and you're not jumping their open rate up, but they don't really probably care because they can probably, if they do analysis, they're making money, right? They're like, this is working, right? Yeah. She's like, heck yeah, I'm spending some money with this company. And so, but that's at the end of the day, like what is success, right? Is success a higher open rate or is success higher profitability, right? I'd be willing to be like, yeah, I'm running on a 27% open rate, but my profitability through my marketing efforts it has 10x, 20x. Because what we're doing is working. So I'll give up the fact that my ego is tied to a 50% open rate. So like, no, like if my profit is 10x and I'm running 27% open rate, get over yourself, right? Like, don't go, if you're working with Jamie, don't go berate Jamie because like, I need a higher open rate. It's like, you're making 10 times more money than you were when we showed up on the email marketing, right? So what's really the goal, I think, as business owners is like, we can get hooked on metrics. It's important to know what the metrics are as a baseline. But at the end of the day, are we getting closer to the real objective, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting too, and I think it's encouraging. This is a little quick story that I'll share too. So just in that connection and the storytelling. So I had someone that I met, this is like 12 or 14 years ago now. She got on my email list. She told me at an event in person, she said, I want to be on your email list. I have this idea for a business. I don't have it yet. I just want to learn from you and I'll get back to you at some point, you know? And I was like, we all have those people that like every time we see them, they're like, oh yeah, I want to work with you. And you're like, okay. But like, then it's years. After 8 years of being on my email list, she hired me and she had a full-blown business. She worked up her business plan. And when she was ready, she knew how much it cost to hire me. But she had been on my email list the entire time. And she would reply from time to time and be like, oh my gosh, it's so encouraging. I can't wait till I can open my business and hire you. And I just kept thinking, well, that's probably never going to happen, right? But after 8 years of being on my list, I made $0 from her. And then I worked with her for almost 4 years. So like, you know, I think too, when we look at the people on our list, there's all kinds. Some people are just going to quietly watch you. I mean, I'll have people that'll come up and be like, oh, I read your email about X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I didn't even know you ever opened my emails. Mm-hmm. So it's important to also, again, perspective. We have to make money. We need to connect with people. We need to do both. But also sometimes there are people that are watching and responding, even though they're not responding the way we want them to right this minute.
That's the truth. And I think a lot of us have to realize the sub theme of this outside of email marketing is don't get caught in the weeds on things, right? Like, and I think as business owners, we can get work because we're so focused on our business that if you're writing email and you're putting an offer in each email, you're like, I'm beating my email audience up. But the thing that we have to remember is that everyone in our audience, everyone in our email list or whoever's looking to your business is ready at a different time.
Yes.
And so if we're not consistently saying, I can help you, or I have this thing that can help you, then we're sometimes missing that window of when they're ready, right? It's like the seed is ready to sprout. Are you there to water it? Right? Because like you've been nurturing it. And I think a lot of us can go, oh my gosh, like everything I'm putting out is like, do this, do that, do this. And there's the old Dan Kennedy thing that if you haven't, made somebody mad by lunch, that you're not marketing hard enough. Right. And it's like, I love that to an extent because it's a yin and a yang to, we need to be more willing to say, hey, the thing that I do this to help you. And I got to make sure you know about it. And that way, when that seed is ready to sprout, when that person, after 8 years sitting dormant on an email list, is like, hey, remember me? I'm ready. And you're like, yeah, I've been watering that seed. I didn't think it was ever going to sprout at this point, but it did. And I think that that's something that we've definitely learned along the way. But the other thing too is, and this is a little bit side note, but we'll cruise to it pretty quickly, which is the fact that don't be afraid to like change the way you communicate your offers, because sometimes the way it's being presented to one person will resonate and those people will take you up on it. And then you reposition that offer and it activates a whole nother set of people that were there the whole time. You just hadn't communicated to them in a way that would activate them. Right. And I'm not going to go down farming analogies because I think I could, but then we'd probably lose half the people. So, change the way you communicate, right? But yes, really focusing on the fact that sometimes we can make a small shift in our business of what that offer is. And it speaks. So, we've had people that have bought horses from us. We never even knew they were following us. And like, I've got one that's pending sale right now. And this lady's like, I followed you for 4 years. I've never seen her like a post. I've never seen an email from her. I've never seen anything, but I finally put out an offer, a horse that she liked, that she's like, hey, me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Who are you? Like, get to know you. I've been following you for this many years. I'm like, news to me. Right. But I finally put out something that she wanted. Right. And I think all of us have to, whether it's a horse, a clinic, a course, a membership, we got to be able to position that thing that people want. And if we change, it's just merely change the way you communicate it sometimes can bring a whole nother bed of people up to the top. And you're like, I didn't even know these people existed. And it's like, yeah, because you never nurtured them in the way that they needed to be nurtured so that they could actually come to the surface. And that's something that we've learned. And so it makes it fun, I think, on the business side, because then you get to be creative about how do I activate my audience? How do I get, because we're leading them, we're serving them, right? And if all of us are passionate about serving the people that we're meant to be serving, then it's like, how can I get them excited and ready to say yes to my horse training services, yes to me being their farrier, yes to my course, all the stuff, right?
Well, and the interesting thing as you're talking, I'm like, how long did it take me to get signed up with Horse Business Manager? Like, you guys nurtured me. I got the emails, like you reached out, we talked about it, and I was like, I'm just not ready yet. It was nothing like for me as a, a potential client, like you just kept reaching out and like, hey, we can do this. And then it was framed in a different way. And I was like, ooh, okay, like that makes sense for me. It was good timing. It was the end of the year. I was like, this will be a good last minute write-off. It's a good investment. I can start the year fresh. So it was like a timing thing for me. And I think, again, as business owners, sometimes we forget that like there are people that are going to buy from us. They're just not ready. And we cannot, let ourselves get discouraged about that. We just need to keep marketing with love and compassion. And again, empathy, just saying, here's what we have. It's here to help you. I have, and sometimes too, you learn interesting things about certain people. And like, I had someone that last summer that was like, in 3 months, I need you to message me and tell me I have to sign up for this program right now. And I was like, okay. She's like, I'm not ready now. I need to be pushed. I'm a personality that's very resistant, and I need you to tell me that I have to do it. And I did. In 3 months, I was like, all right, I'm coming at you. Literally, you asked me to come at you. Here's the link. Sign up for my coaching program. And she did. She That's just awesome. Needed, and it's, she was emotionally intelligent enough to tell me that. But, just some interesting things like that with the people that are on our list. Like there's all kinds of people. And so we do have to sometimes offer one offer 3 different ways, and you're going to get those different people. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's a great reminder to me too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, if we loop this like into email, right, of just being consistent and reaching our audience. We had a demo call yesterday with somebody that told us on the call, like, hey, I've wanted to do this for a year. My business just wasn't at the right place. Like I've been getting your emails. I've been paying attention to what you guys have been updating and all the new things that are going on. I just haven't been ready. And so we had actually closed the demos down for a while because of how busy we've been with clients. And like the first day that we put the button back on the website, it was like, bingo, there's a demo. And then she's like, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was just confirmation, right, that in a business, all of us as business owners, we want people to be buying right now. Like when we get on call, whether it's a horse trainer, a farrier, any marketing, whatever it is like we want that person that we're talking to, we want them to say yes now.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, as much as we can want them to do that because maybe our business needs cash flow, which it always does. Every business needs more cash flow. Yep. At the end of the day, we're not going to tarnish that relationship just to pigeonhole them into saying yes today. Like we want them to say yes when they're ready. That type of customer that you're talking about, it's like, I know my weakness. You just need to do this. And like, I enjoy those types of customers because it's just like, okay, you're self-aware enough. Like, what are you actually waiting on? Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not going to push on you unless I know that this is going to help you and you're in the right place. But other people are like, hey, I'm not ready yet. That's totally fine. And from a business owner standpoint, particularly when it comes to email marketing, it's just further proof, right? We all want people to say yes today in our business. When we send an email out, we want everybody to say yes. We want them all to click the link. We know that's not going to happen. And so it's a numbers game, right? The number one need that every business has is we need more leads. We need more people interested in what we have. And some people try to grow a social media audience, which is a good place to start. I say that's like fishing in the ocean. Like you get to go to the big deep seas and go fishing over there. Yet we need to get more people into our private pond, which I visualize as our email list. And the more people that we put on to our email list, the more people that we have that we can catch fish on a monthly basis. And so if we want more people to say yes, we got to bring more people onto the list, and we can reach them with a much greater consistency. And so that way, when we're like, why aren't enough people saying yes? It's like, hey, maybe you just need more new people. Like you need more new people on the list. And we recently ran into this. We were doing a launch for a client, and they were only banking on us doing the marketing during the launch phase, but they wouldn't actually build their list or do the marketing in between. And we eventually nixed it, and we're like, hey, we're not doing this again because the pond isn't any bigger than where we're at. So how, like, you're expecting more results. There's going to be a little bit, but there's not going to be what is necessary to make this worth it, right? And it's just understanding that at the end of the day, as passionate and as emotional and as all this stuff that we can be in our business, it comes down to numbers, right? It really comes down to numbers on a list. So we've talked about like the big picture of ideal open rates, all that sort of stuff. But if we go like a little bit higher level here for a second, what would you say like the top 1%? And I know you're paying attention to the best of the best, and you're among them in your emails, because I love seeing what you're putting together. I'm like, that's really interesting and intriguing as to like how you're communicating. So what would you say like the top 1% of email marketers are doing that most other people just aren't doing in their email marketing?
Well, interestingly enough, this year specifically, I'm just seeing crazy short, concise emails, not a bunch of pictures. Like when you're looking at what do they look like, when I open them, the 1%, they're sharing one, maybe two things. That's it. They're not sharing a whole long, it's short, concise, but it's every time the people that I follow that I just love, and some of them I purchase courses from, and some of them, like I love Alex Hermosi and like some of these other guys that send emails, they're very short, they're very concise, but I can feel heart in them. So I think it's almost cool now to like be transparent and to be authentic and to be totally real in who you are. And I feel like you can just say that. People are like, oh, that's who I am. No, like, who are you at the core? You can tell when people really want to serve. You can really tell. I'll share this too, because he was in the 1% probably about 15 years ago. I took a course from him. It was $2,500. I did not have it at all. He said, and he wasn't being like haughty about it. He said, I don't need your money, but I need people to learn that they can be successful. And I need more people like me to be like, I can be the 1% change in my family, in my generational wealth, in all the things. He said, if you complete this course and do all the things in it, you get your $2,500 back. Do you think I found a way to spend the $2,500? So the 1%, in my opinion, what I see and feel is it's extreme heart, and like you can tell they come from a serving. They come from a place of wanting to serve their people. And yes, we know they want to make money. We know they want to sell courses. They want us to buy a $5,000 course, and maybe we don't have the money for it, but we're probably going to find it because we want to stay connected with those people. So that's not like crazy tactical, but as far as what the emails look like, they're all like, if I was sitting next to someone talking to them like this, their emails feel like that. And I feel like I'm their friend. So they're extremely friendly. And also, like, I know they're trying to sell me, but like, I want to give them my money, if that makes sense. I mean, that's a very like high level, like what they're doing strategy wise, but it's very heartfelt and storytelling based. And it just makes me want to be like, I want to be like, I want to have coffee with you. Like when I read an email, I want to be like if it's a really good email, I'm like, oh my gosh, can I sit down and have coffee with this person? Like this would be so cool to get to know them more. And those are the people that I will eventually buy from. So.
And I think that's probably the best news that we've had all day. If anyone, the people that are still listening to this and they're like, I've got to figure out how to leverage email marketing, because what you just said was it's conversational, it's personal, it's conversational, it's in the tonality that you would normally speak to people. So you just be you, right? Be clear, be concise, talk at that 3rd grade to 5th grade reading level so it's easy to understand. You're not talking down at your audience, right? You're trying to be clear. Confused people don't do anything, so you're just focusing on clarity. But be you, converse with your audience, and keep it simple. You don't have to be a graphic designer, right? You don't have to do all this fancy stuff. You just need to be real. You need to be authentic, and you need to be calculated and clear in what you're telling to your list. And it's like, holy crap, has it ever been easier? Now, the simple things are not easy. Like, this is simple. This is not easy. And there's but you don't actually learn how to do it unless you actually go learn from people that know how to do it, which is what you did in that mastermind, right? And then you actually implement, you actually take action, you take the things you learn and you actually start doing it so you get the reps in. And so we're going to wrap things up here in a minute because I want to be respectful of your time. And we'll end on this particular question here, which is, and we might have danced around it, but I want to hit it directly on the head because we're talking about simplifying. We're talking about being clear. And where do you find that most horse business owners actually overcomplicate email marketing? And like, how do they actually simplify it down to something that they'll actually be able to do sustainably in their business?
Well, I think part of it is just simply setting a schedule. Like the people that come to me that I talk to on the phone, they're like, I just don't know and it's too hard. And really it starts with mindset. Let's just be real. I mean, I can say this straight up to you. The majority of people, when it comes to email marketing, especially in the horse industry, it's mindset 100% because they have all this noise going on in their head. And that's the part that's convoluting everything. It is simple. It's not easy. I mean, I've been committed to doing an email a week and I'm doing it come hell or high water. I don't care how I feel, what's going on. Have I missed a couple weeks in the last 6 months? Yes, I think I've missed 3 times. So how can people simplify it? First of all, just get out of your head. If you have all this noise going on in your head, find some good stuff to listen to, like Colton's podcast, other people that understand that it all starts up here. But from a very practical sense, get a calendar, commit to, I'm going to do it twice a month. These are the days I'm sending it out. I'm going to write it. I'm going literally just reverse engineer the challenge. If I'm going to do an email twice a month, what days, put it on the calendar. If you need to use AI to help you write it, do that, but just make sure you don't just copy and paste. It has to be yours. It has to be authentic. We could talk about AI for another 19 hours, but simplistically, I've been listening to Alex Hermosi, and he's like, anyone can be anyone else if they pick one thing to do and do it for 100 days, period. You will outdo your competitor. You'll create a new system for yourself in your business, but you have to commit to doing it. And if you need to reach out to a friend of yours or your spouse or someone and be like, listen, someone needs to hold me accountable. Maybe you need a business coach. I don't know what that looks like, but you have to just simply commit to doing it. That is it. And all the other stuff, the strategy of how do I get better opens? How do I write better subject lines? All of those things can be learned, but until you create yourself a roadmap of this is what I'm doing and I will not fail at this, at the effort, putting forth the effort to commit to doing it and just get rid of all the noise in your head. I mean, that's sometimes harder to do, but if you can do that and just commit to a timeline, it's sometimes really challenging, but I have myself a calendar and it's on there and I have it blocked out in my phone. You might have 100 things going on, horses to feed, all the different things. But if you're doing email, you have to be like, okay, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 hours to do the email. It's on my calendar, period. Hard stop.
Absolutely. I've always, one of the first things that I came across in the horse industry when I was building my horse training business was there's no job stability. You don't have a 401k, you don't have, the fallback plan and all these things. And what I quickly realized, the number one job security thing that I could build into my business was demand, right? Mm-hmm. If I built a wait list for my horse training business, if I built people if I had an e-commerce product that were it's out of stock, tell me when it's available. If I had constant demand, I had job security, no matter what the case was. And you and I spoke this morning before we got to hop on here, just briefly, right? And you're saying, hey, one of the biggest misconceptions is expectations. This is not a pop the first email out to a cold email and you get a sale. If you do, be excited, right. Be thrilled, yes. Huge win, right? But this does take some warm up. It does take some effort. And it's you're looking at a 90-day to 6 month, let's really get the systems rolling. And I think it's important for any of us we're in this business, we're not going anywhere. This is where our roots are set. Is that this is an investment, short-term and long-term, into a business, and 6 months flies by. It's crazy. And it's hey, if you start actually learning this material now, taking action, building a list, right? We're doing this at the end of May. Black Friday, if you got e-commerce products, if you got affiliate opportunities, Amazon, like anybody, there's so many affiliate opportunities that you can, like we offer one through Horse Business Manager, right? Like if that you could be building a list and then be able to offer those come Christmas, come Black Friday, come the holidays. And even if you're listening to this and it's Christmas time and you're in the horse industry, we know that some people go dormant during the winter, right? And come spring, people are going to be ready to go out and do the things with their horses again. And so every season has opportunity. It's not that one season's better than the other. It just has ebbs and flows. And this is one of those things that from a long-term sustainable effect of a business, if you're not doing email marketing, you're leaving a gaping hole in your business because you might be like, I'm just using social media. But guys, I'm going to tell you, if you ever think that you might do Facebook ads, you got to have an email list because you have to build an audience and you rely on an email list to do that. And so, and even when you're running ads, they're not just going to straight up buy off the ads. They're going to opt into things. And then you got to keep nurturing them through email. It's a system.
Yes.
Right? And then you have to have the automations that Jamie was talking to earlier about making sure that you have the welcome sequences and you have the things that are going out, whether it's text or email. It's a system to run a real business. And like, this is really what it comes down to. And you're saying, hey, I've got to simplify, right? I want to wrap up on this particular note. And if you have anything else you want to add, I'm not going to, you can get the last word in, but you mentioned like, you got to simplify, you got to get a calendar. You and I are both, in awe and have a lot of admiration for Myron Golden. And one of the biggest things that I learned from him was what a decision actually means, because in the culture that we live in, a decision means what more can I do, right? Like I need to do more. I need to do more in my business. I know I need to be working harder. It's all a bunch of lies. We don't have time to talk about that today. The root, it is, but a decision by nature through its rat and loop meaning is decision. And it means, and decision is to cut, like an incision that we all, hopefully none of us had to have the vet out recently, but we understand what an incision is. And so we had to cut, and duh means away. So decision by definition means to cut away. And many of us are programmed to think decision, I need to do more. And it's about what not to be doing. And it's how to prioritize what we should be doing. And if all of us are running short on time, so we have to go, what is the best ROI? Well, email on its worst day should be doing 5 to 7 times more than what we're getting off of social media. So if I'm prioritizing my effort in my business, I think my opinion is you should be using social media like a random mule to build your email list so that way you can ultimately be getting 5 to 7x the results through the communicating that you're already doing. Right, just learn how to do it through email. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to throw in there, but like when you said like we got to simplify, it comes down to a decision. Are you going to actually step up and do email marketing for the short term and the long term benefit of your business, knowing that all these social media platforms are going to go away at some point and something new will come along, and we'll talk about this like this was like the long lost history from the early 2000s, how Facebook used to be a thing, but right now it's current. It will go away more than likely. But email has been there since the beginning of the internet. It is stayed tried and true, and there's not really much sight that it's going anywhere.
I could just say yes and amen, because I think even for me with my mindset and where, like, I also love Myron, we talk about him and some of these other people, but I recently read last week, doing nothing is an action. So it was like the flip side of that, right? Like doing nothing, that's an action you're taking that is not going to benefit your business. And based on what you just said, I mean, I think yes and amen is an appropriate response, because it was for me about what am I not going to do in order for me to do what I'm committed to doing. And I mean, my family knows, like, it's almost a joke now. They're like, okay, don't mess with mom. She's doing her email. Like, this is the time that's like, I'm doing this. I'm committed. And the other thing is, the more email, the more consistently you do it, the more data you have for your business that's going to help you serve your customers better. So it's a win-win on so many levels.
Absolutely. Absolutely cool. And so with that being said, speaking of learning and all these things, I'm pumped about this, but you have a course coming out specifically about email marketing. So can you give us a quick rundown of what can I expect? Because I'm looking forward to it. What can I expect like in that course? What we're going to learn? What are you going to go through? That sort of thing.
Yes, it's called the Email Revenue Roadmap, and it's going to be about 6 modules, and it's going to I'm going to share all of my secrets from about 20 years of email marketing, from very like the things that are in the weeds that we do need to talk about, the many things that we said, oh, if we could just talk more about that, right? So high level strategy, but my job in the course is to simplify each step and all the different things you can do for your email list, whether it's you have a list of 50 or you have a list of 50,000. All the same principles apply. So there's going to be a course, and there's also going to be mentorship that goes along with it. So I can take a peek at your emails and help you assess what's working and what's not. And just walk beside you for 4 to 6 weeks and give you some really great tools to amplify and magnify what you're already doing. Because a lot of times, if you're an established business or if you're brand new, but if you're an established business, you're like, we've been doing this for so long and you need fresh eyes. And sometimes fresh eyes and learning some additional tactics and strategies are going to be exactly what you need to just up your revenue for 2025. So that's my hope, and my plan for that course is just to help people take their email list and amplify their revenue, so they can end 2025 and be like, yes, email marketing is totally worth it.
Absolutely. Right on. Guys, what we'll do is we'll put down in the link down in the show notes or right below wherever you can get to the links on this episode. We'll put a straight link to Jamie's course, waitlist, anything that she's able to jump in on when that comes live. So if this episode is out, you're going to be able to jump on to either jump straight into the course if it's already out, or jump there. We'll make sure that link is live for you, because if you've made it this far, you know the value that email marketing holds. It's truly long-term sustainability for any business, and it just makes sense in the short term from the ROI that goes into creating content and nurturing your audience. And so, Jamie, I want to say thank you so much for your time this afternoon and jumping in on here, providing so much value to our audience, but also for what you've been putting all your effort into your course, because that's just going to be another further way to continue helping people actually be able to really make a difference in their businesses and serve their audience and serve all the people in their lives, which is ultimately the thing we're after.
Well, I appreciate it. As always, I love chatting with you about all things marketing, and especially email, because it's my most favorite. And I thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time.